welcome back to another Impactful Night of the Impact to Education Leadership. This is episode 217. I'm your host, ID34, Dr. Isaiah Drone III. Tonight's panelist is Sensei John Mirrione. Sensei, talk to the people. How you doing, sir? What you been up to?
I'm doing awesome, my brother. Been up to a lot. I'm not sure where we can begin, but we got much to talk about. And it's a pleasure and honor to be on your show again. To be this repeated guest, I think you've got great charisma, great spirit, and the listeners should definitely treasure you, as I do.
Well, blessings upon blessings to you, sir. And with that being said, tonight's topic is Harmony Central, building respect and resiliency. Tonight we want to talk about anti-bullying, and because there are many campaigns out there, but there's one specifically that we're going to be discussing tonight, and that's what Harmony by Karate, and that's Sensei John Mirrione. So we know that bullying is a universal crisis, crossing borders, cultures, and generations, and yet far too many people still suffer in silence, whether it's in our schools, in our workplaces, even cyberbullying, or even in our families. Bullying leaves invisible scars no one can see, and the effects of bullying, well, it can even stunt your growth. Research says this. And also, it can cause a lifetime of sorrow. I've seen how it crushes confidence, and it isolates victims often when they most need connection, especially post COVID-19. It's time we stop treating bullying as just part of growing up and being tough and manning up, or putting on your big girl shorts, or it's someone else's problem. Every voice matters, and silence provides cover for these bullies to hide behind. So don't be silent. How are we going to fix this? Well, change doesn't require a title. It doesn't even require money or a campaign budget. All it requires is courage. Courage enough to care and the strength enough to act. That's how change happens. Now, we know change takes place in steps. It's a step-by-step process. But together, across territories and cultures all around this world, we can create harmony, whether it's through Harmony by Karate, or whether it's through harmony to sustain a longer, more harmonious peace that will last longer than the cruelty that we have seen and experienced in this world. Sensei John Mirrione, when you got the topic tonight, what was the first thought that ran across your mind, sir?
Well, a lot of thoughts. I mean, I was bullied a lot growing up, from the age of 8 to the age of 17. And whenever I turned the TV on, for years, whatever I've seen on TV pretty much happened to me. And but I chose a different direction. I mean, what happens is when children get bullied by their peers, parents, whoever it might be, what happens is either they take it, internalize it, become the bully themselves, and they usually end up in jail at some point because they have this need to control because they've been controlled. Or they want to save the world. Or they just become the victim their whole life. They're a victim of every bullying incident because they can't come out of the pain that they endured when they were young. The reason why we're still dealing with this crisis is because it comes from parenting, that's the origin of all of it, as I see it. And it's because as parents, we're taught to use fear and intimidation. This has been going on for centuries. Whether it comes from someone's strict religion or whatever it might be, but we have to learn to love, to listen. It doesn't mean to coddle the children. And it doesn't mean that we get bullied by the children. It means that we could be firm and be loving at the same time. And that there can be consequences as a result of actions that are unacceptable. And there could be rewards that are truly earned when you're raising children. But it's like this. I tell parents, I don't have the answers for you. I've made my mistakes as a parent. And I would say that you roll your sleeves up and get ready to fall on your face, because that's what it is to be a parent. And in the end, the more you're willing to fall on your face and be vulnerable, the high likelihood that that child will be a loving child and will not only love the people in the world, but they're going to love you as a parent. So that's really the key. So when you look at the political spectrum and you see how political parties bully each other, you see how they bully the masses, how the bullying is like they have to control, to dominate on all levels, to feel a false sense of power. Why I say it's a false sense of power is that no matter what they attain, whoever they think they are, they could be as supreme as can be, but eventually they all go 6 feet under the ground. And whatever it is that they've attained, whether it's the power and the money, they will not die with it. And they will not be remembered for their power and their money. They will be remembered by those whom they truly shown genuine love, whether it's their family, friends, or if they're in power, the masses. So this is what I've tried to teach many of the leaders that we see, because I'm in New York City. Harmony by Karate has been the cornerstone of martial arts in New York City, but not from a fighting perspective, but from a leadership perspective. So I've seen much of what we've seen, like on television, whether it's people in the White House or whoever it might be. They're just people to me, or their children, for that matter. And I recently, not too long ago, I was actually one of the national leads for RFK Jr. with safety and de-escalation. And it wasn't the politics that I was getting involved in as much as his independence, as much as I felt that there was a growing disparity and division in the country, and he represented that independent hopeful. And I was concerned about the way people were fighting with each other, and we had thousands of people out there trying to converse with different parties and worried about their safety, just by having a conversation. But once again, back to this bullying conversation, love is the answer, the solution. And in the schools, I have a charity, Harmony Power Foundation, which is a charity arm of Harmony by Karate. That's really where the anti-bullying initiative has happened. And we've had the first mandated anti-bullying program in a major worldwide city, and that's Elizabeth, New Jersey, with 28,000 children. And, it's out of a movie to see what these kids do when you go to their assemblies, because it takes them 33 days to change the world using their gifts and talents. And then on the 33rd day, deemed Universal Harmony Day, they display what they love to do to the community or what they've done in those 33 days. And they get honored with a Harmony Power Award. Goes in the report card, because the solution to bullying is one that is proactive. When we recognize positive behavior in a profound, long-term way, that's how we solve the bullying crisis. We cannot solve it through punishment, fear, and intimidation. So kids are raised with fear and intimidation. The system uses fear and intimidation. We want to know why these kids are getting incarcerated and why the system doesn't work, why the system is broken. The system is broken because the hearts are broken. We have to teach love in the hearts and the souls of people if we want them to stop hurting each other.
Let me say something.
So it's as simple as that.
Let me say something, because you said so many, you gave me so many pillars and so many nuggets. I would be less than to not even mention them. As you were speaking, you reminded me of something that not C.L. Franklin, but C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis said there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. And the reason why I mention that quote is because there's somebody listening to this podcast right now that's being bullied. there's some people listening to this podcast that are connected to someone that's being bullied, and they're trying to find the steps. They're trying to find those strategies because this person is experiencing a dark cloud in their life, and that's just what bullying
Mm-hmm.
is, and that's what it presents. I've been bullied. I grew up in a gang infested neighborhood. John Sensei Mirrione, you have too, and when you are bullied and you feel like there is no one to protect you, and you are surrounded by those perpetrators, it presents a dark cloud, meaning that you can't see the end of it. You can't see far beyond it because it becomes a nebulous. You are absorbed in it. You are sucked in by this nebulous of darkness, this dark cloud, and it rains on you, and it rains on you in a way that everyone sees it, and sometimes the raining can produce tears. It produces fear. It produces everything that a dark cloud would give you. And so you said something that you said many things, but one of the things that stuck out to me was that you had an opportunity to go in a trajectory. You could have went in the direction of being negative and become a bully yourself, or you could have been the person that I believe you are now, and that's the person that's going out there and saving the world. And so what I mean, you hadn't said that, but let's just ask that question. Like, what was your takeaway from being bullied, and what does being bullied? What does it mean to you?
Well, those who hurt me and bullied me, I loved them because they made me who I am. They made me love myself. They forced me to love me. And when you love yourself, and they know that, they're a lot less likely to bother you. And often it's tied into being less fearful and proud. So it's different. It's a whole different vibe. But I'm grateful for those who tormented me because it taught me to really stand up and live in a fearless way. What is being fearless? It's having fear, but using the courage to move forward. It means less fear. It doesn't mean that you don't have fear. Fear is a driving force. It's what we're born here to deal with, to rise to the higher levels of existence. Without the suffering, without the bullying, we have no evolution whatsoever. So it's not like you eliminate bullying. It means that you can minimize it, you can confront it, you can heal it, but it's part of the evolution of humanity. The evolution of our souls is that. And we have to start with not bullying ourselves. What does that mean? You bully yourself with that negative self-talk. You're not good enough. It's never good enough. Whether someone told you that or you created that in your own mind, this idea that you have to be perfect, this idea you have to be better than everyone, it's a terrible one. I've spent my life in New York City trying to be better than myself. I cannot compete with the world. There are far better fighters than me, far better in everything. But what I realize is that what keeps people coming back to me is my ability to love me for who I am, and they want to connect to my spirit. And as long as I have a good skill and a good mindset and positive ideas and keep people moving and feeling better and stronger, it's really that simple. So people don't have to be the best of the best of the best to be someone. They have to just be the best they can be with who they are and give it with all their love and passion. And they'll find great joy in themselves and in the people in their surroundings. But if they bully themselves through this negative self-talk and this idea that they're not good enough, that's going to be very damaging. And those are the same people that when they don't feel they're good enough, they hurt everyone around them. It's like a perpetuating dark piece in people, or as some say, the shadow side. We have the ability in a blink to change it. Simply by the lens that we choose to look through.
That was so well defined, but I need to pull on you just a little bit more because I want to pull this word from you. Of course, you have courage. I mean, you're a world champion fighter. Of course, you have courage. But what would you say to those people that don't have courage? Let's face it, the ones that's being bullied most of the time because they don't have the courage, right? They don't have the courage to embrace those external factors, those external, shall we say, perspectives. They don't have the courage
let me say this.
to cultivate emotional
Yeah.
wisdom. They don't have
Yes.
they don't have the courage to find the inner strength for the faith. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have that courage. And so, what would you say to the people that are lacking those courages and that courage, and what steps do they need to take to gain courage?
Well, let me rewind this conversation. You said I was a world champion fighter. I would say I was a world champion of different things, but not. I wouldn't say I was never the number one fighter in the world on any level. But I was a number two fighter one year internationally in the world with no weight divisions, masters divisions, that whole thing. And I was, excuse the sound of my background. I would say to you that the truth is, in my fights, and I did 50 full contact fights, I probably lost half of them. In my street fights, I lost half of them. The other ones I survived, and in the competitions I won the other half. We had no weight division. It was very dangerous fights I fought. The streets are very dangerous too. But fighting back, it's not about whether you win or lose. I chose to stand up. And you get to a place where, you know what? Either you could be alive and feel like you're dead, or you could stand up and be willing to be a warrior and stand, and whatever it might be, using your words or standing up because you're like, you know what? It's a choice. I've had enough. I'd rather stand. And you get to that place and you make that choice. It doesn't mean you want to cause harm or become violent, but I would use enough force to stop force. Because it's kind of like when I teach self-defense. I don't like teaching self-defense, but when I've had to, I tell people it's better to get beaten fighting back than to cradle up in a ball and do nothing. Because you're going to be in a lot more therapy the rest of your life by just cradling up in a ball. So they can break your body, but they cannot break your soul. You got to get to a place where you cannot allow people to break your soul anymore. They could break your bones, they could say whatever. You've got to choose to stand up and not allow this pain to continue. And if you're the bully and you have just struggled with self-control, you're going to need to learn that self-love and make a choice to think about your actions, because you will hit a wall so hard when you deal with somebody that is much stronger, much more powerful, that will set you straight, and it's not a direction you want to go in. And the love has far more power than fear when it comes to not controlling people, but them wanting to be with you because they love you, not because they fear you. So those are some of the thoughts I have to share as it pertains to your question.
No, that's great. That's great. You keep using the word love. You keep using the word love, but people have different definitions of the word love. Like you keep using the word self-love. What does love mean to you? What does the word love or self-love, what does that mean to Sensei John Mirrione?
Well, it begins with an acceptance. The acceptance of who we are. You observe, you look in the mirror, you have a thought. And it's when you learn to accept, then you can begin to embrace yourself as you are with all your flaws and accept it. And then you begin to be vulnerable. And the power to cry it out, like to cry out your pain, but to cry with joy, to allow your emotions to flow, is a great way to self-love and to love others for the same thing. But it's really about also doing the work, the self-care, taking care of your health, eating the right things, saying positive things to yourself, even if you don't believe them, just to start to change your language. If science has proven the language of things we say, how it affects our subconscious. So we say positive things, we eat healthy things, and we start to look at our circles and see if we like those circles of people around us. If we don't like what we're hearing, we have to say something. And if they're not respecting us, we can slowly start to change those circles to people who have positive things to say to us. These are all choices that we have to make within our soul. So self-love, or love in itself, is a word, yes, it's a word that's broad and it could mean a lot of things, but it's a feeling good and saying, you know what, I matter. I love myself. I am in the joy of being here and existing. I want to just be in peace and exist as I am. And I want to be in peace, and I want to accept others as who they are. So it's about peace. It's about a harmonious embrace of oneself and others. That can lead to like this love space where it's just like a high of euphoria, a high of what one feels with how they connect to themselves and how they connect to others. And that could lead to the affection that we need. We need the hugging, the kisses, the embrace, the handshakes. All that is the action of love. Love in action. Love is also giving. How we give to each other. You know, if we are feeling pain, give of yourself. If you want to smile, make someone else smile. They smile back, you feel good. That's love. That's love in action, is giving. So it's like if we are in giving and then we are in gratitude, we are thankful for the things that we are, the things that we have, the things that are positive in our lives, we will attract more of those things to us. And if we are giving, even if we give what we are not getting, over time, we will get back in ways that we never imagined. So giving and gratitude is the most powerful way.
When did you come? Well, two questions. Thank you for that. When did you come to this epiphany? When did you come to this aha moment in your life, based off what you just said? And from that, I want you to transition into what is the mission of Harmony by Karate.
Well, I mean, this has been, I've had countless interactions with people. I mean, I learned from my students. Thousands of people I've taught, I've learned from them. Amazing, legendary mentors, I've learned from them. So they've been very blessed with, being realizing that everything around me is a teacher. And if I'm open to what's around me, that information, that's the power. So that's where the knowledge came from. Harmony by Karate is, what was the question about Harmony by Karate? Ask that question again, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I said, what is the mission of Harmony by Karate? What's the mission?
It's all about teaching inclusive and empathic leadership. That's the mission. Because when we learn to lead ourselves, then we can lead others. And that creates a harmonious planet. And I use martial arts as the vehicle in doing so. Through the movement, and how people approach movement is how they approach their life. So they approach that movement in a positive and powerful way. They approach their life in a positive and powerful way.
And what's the vision of Harmony by Karate?
No particular vision. The vision is harmony power. I want to bring harmony power over the planet. What I mentioned to you before, what I've seen in the schools with the 33 days to change the world, that's the answer. Not everybody wants to learn martial arts as their vehicle to find peace, like I teach that in the city. But if I want to reach out to the world, it's harmony power that's going to do it. Because think about it. Harmony by Christ is a vehicle. It's one of infinite vehicles for positive change. Harmony Power is the concept, an idea that we find something we love, we embrace it, and we share it with our community. And we get honored for that. We get honored, actually being honored for who we are, by what we love to do. And when they do that every year, that child's going to be directed to their passions and talents and their careers. That changes the whole world. That's the solution to the bullying crisis, the solution to world peace, as I see it. I've seen it firsthand what it does to the whole city.
This is good. This is good. What are the strategies? What are some strategies, rather, that we can use based off of what you've taught us tonight? What are some strategies that we can use to help us foster resilience, help us empower our young people, our youth, and help us to create a brighter future for these individuals and their communities? What are some of the strategies? What are your go-to strategies for that?
I don't think there's endless strategies as far as teaching resilience. But resilience is a choice, and it's a choice of a leader to lead with resilience as an example for others to follow. It depends on the activities of the community and what direction and what things are utilizing within their community. And choosing to teach that is by being that. So it's not like you can tell people, I want you to be resilient. No one's going to understand that. But they see that you are resilient by example. You go after the things that you go after, and you're doing it and talking about it. That's how you spread that idea of resilience.
Now, what are you currently working on now with Harmony by Karate?
Well, Harmony Karate, first of all, I just today was in front of the UN because I had in New Jersey, I had done something unique. I was in a quest to run for governor. And in that quest, it was because I had the people who backed Kennedy that wanted to back me. They wanted me to be like the next RFK, but I'm not RFK Jr., I'm John Mirrione. And I decided to have a child-centered political campaign because I believe that children are first. And it turned out that we ended up having to end the campaign because as an independent, it's kind of like they don't want independents out there, so we had to kind of backpedal. But we ended up with a world record certificate for having the first child policy campaign in the world. There's been no government, nothing they could have found like it. I learned that through that idea, that's what's happened as well in our politics, in our leadership, putting children first. But back to what I did in the UN in Harmony by Karate is I have multiple world records doing push-ups. So I had set and broken 9 world records a few months ago with a bare knuckle push-up on my right arm and my left arm. And it had to do with age-based and combination of how many push-ups I did with each hand. So today I did 47 one-arm bare knuckle push-ups on a stone ground in front of the UN on the right arm in 30 seconds, 47. And on the left arm I did 38 in 30 seconds and it hurt like crazy. But it was powerful because today was, International Children's Day with the UN. And I wanted to stand for the children worldwide. And what could be more important and bold than putting my knuckles for the children around the world, for the pain that they endure when they're not heard, when they're bullied, and all the things that happen to children. So that's what I did today, representing Harmony by Karate and, of course, the Harmony Power Foundation.
As you were speaking, I could not help but to be reminded of the theologian Paul Tillich. You ever heard of him? Well,
no.
Look him up.
Tell me.
He was an amazing guy. It's a quote that he mentioned as it relates to courage and love that you've been talking about. And that quote is this: one could say that the courage to be is the courage to accept oneself as accepted in spite of being unacceptable. In spite of being unacceptable, meaning that when you have the courage to still be who you are, even though you're unacceptable, then you have arrived to the premise
That's
of
beautiful.
courage. Oh, it is. I mean,
That is beautiful. I believe that, because it means that you're standing out and you're creating waves in the world, and you're waking people up. And even though they may not like it, they need it, and you need those change makers to do that. It's funny. I feel like that often when I do things.
I
It's
know
like I feel like I've always felt like.
that's why
You know,
I mentioned that.
I'm like the oddball, brother. I'm like the
But
oddball. Like I'm 60.
let me ask you a question, because I think I'm going down your lane. I feel like I'm traveling down your lane with this question.
I think so. I think let's go.
And you just said you were 60. I know you're 60. I wasn't gonna say it, but that 60 is the new 40. Okay, but what has been the greatest challenge for you when it comes to being in those schools, to reducing the instances of bullying in those schools, and what's been the pushback that you've experienced the most in communities and schools and government, while you're trying to promote a culture of respect,
the pushback is
empathy, and
pushback
kindness?
is not the.
Go ahead. Let me finish the question, sir. Yeah. So
Hear me out, bro.
talk about it.
Hear me out. You ready? Let's go. So I don't know if I didn't tell you in the listeners for years, but I'm now the anti-bully leadership resource for all New York City public schools. That'll happen maybe 8 months ago. And with the head of anti-bullying for the whole city, and so I'm close with the top city officials in New York City now. And what happens is this. Hear me out on this. Is that so? This is going to answer a lot of questions. So they had the biggest anti-bully event they have once a year. It's done by the teachers union. I was the keynote speaker. It was me and one other person, but I did one of two major assemblies. There's 400 children, 5 boroughs. So they picked middle school kids from 5 boroughs. And the challenge is not the children. The challenge is the heads of schools that don't bring in the best. Like this. Here I am, the top gun in that arena, and there are schools that will still say no when asked. I've asked to come in for free. And of course, I got paid the first time last year from New York City. You have to get paid in New York City. And you can offer it for free. And they're like, oh, no, it's not. They do not embrace the change that these kids need, period. Only a few care enough to bring in the right programs, administer them. They clock in, clock out. There's very few that care the way they should. There are principals who care a great deal. There are teachers who care a great deal. But a lot of them are just kind of numb to the system. And they, too, don't believe that there's anything out there that can really help the change when the change is right in front of their face. So I'll give you an example. I go into this event in New York City, and I told the administrators, this is what's going to happen. Kids are going to heckle. They're going to make fun of me. I'm light-skinned. Most of these kids are dark-skinned, African-American, Hispanic. I walk in, I talk about being bullied. They don't want to hear it. They don't look at me as a guy that grew up in a rough area, because they grew up in really rough areas. But when I start to tell them that I was homeless when I was a child, my mother was a drug addict, and a suicidal drug addict, and I start telling them this, they start to open their eyes. They start asking questions, and they heckle, and they make comments, and then I give them a feeder. I start telling them that, I have world records, and they start seeing videos of me doing stuff, and then they find out I was a break dancer. And I was at the Apollo Theater in Harlem multiple times, and then they want to see me dance. This happens all the time, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. At the time I was 59. I said, well, maybe if you guys listen and let me do this assembly, I might show you something. By the end, they're going crazy, because I finally end up surprising them with my dance and martial arts performance. Kids don't want to leave. They run up to the stage. They want pictures. They want me to autograph. They want my signature. And the administrators are just confused. They're perplexed by what they just saw. That's the kind of stuff these kids need. The real human connection, the human stories, and doing things that they can relate to. That's what moves them. And then when you bring in the Harmony Power initiative where they get to do something that they love to do and they celebrate amongst each other every year, and it goes in a report card and you start directing these kids to their gifts and talents, it changes everything. It really does. It's the solutions in front of them, but it's not the solution that's complicated. It's the egos of the leaders that are complicated. There's nothing with kids. I saw a principal the other day. I was in New York City. I was going to get my car. She was getting her car. She had flowers in her hand. So I didn't know it was a principal. I said, "Where'd you get those flowers?" "Oh, they gave it to me." I said, "Really?" I said, "What did you show the principal?" I said, "Oh, I am the leadership resource for anti-bullying for all New York City public schools." As soon as I said that, who I was, her jaw dropped. She looked disinterested. Because right away she knew I was going to pitch her that I want to come to her school. God forbid they have someone come to the school. And I'm their top guy. Oh, I'd say one of their top. I'm with resources, only two of them for the whole city. I was blown away in that moment. I'm like, that's why there's problems everywhere. Because you have leaders that just turn their head the other direction. What it is. And until these leaders wake up and realize that they don't have a lot of time, that if they don't put their foot down and become change makers with these kids above and beyond their jobs, we're going to see more of the same thing until they wake up and do something. There's your answer.
No, that was amazing. That was amazing. Now, on your website, you have a picture of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And now, why do you have him on your website?
I don't have a picture of my website with that.
No. You have a picture of him on your website.
Not my website, but in my Facebook, I've had it, but not on my website. Website has Harmony by Karate, Harmony by in either one of those sites.
Well, I actually went to your website and it has a picture of him on your.
Which one?
I went to harmonybykarate.com. And
I gotta have to look at that. Maybe one of my media people put it there. Okay.
Yeah, it's but talk about that. Why him? Who? I mean, are you connected to him? I heard you mention him earlier. Kind of break that down. I was his national. As mentioned before, I was the national lead to him in de-escalation for the whole country. So I was the one that trained people before they went out there and talked to people about a third-party option, being him. And even the night... You guys know each other? That's what I'm asking.
What's that?
No, so I'm asking, do you guys know one another?
We met once.
Okay.
It's not like he had a handful of national leads, but it wasn't like he was running around making connections with them. He was running around doing other things. But I met him once in Washington. We took a picture together, and I said, I said to him, I'm Sensei John. I'm one of your national leads. He said, "Oh," and he put his arm around me and took a picture with me. And also when I was running as independent with Maha, which was a possible initiative, there was talk to him about me, but he could not step out of the picture. He had to focus on his job in Washington. He could not get involved outside of there, but he was excited about what I was doing, but there was nothing he could do to be involved at all. He has to do his job working with the Trump administration, and I'm not on either party line. I have close, very dear friends on both sides. For me, it was about being independent, going down the center line, and giving people another option, because I was concerned about the schools and the children. And in the schools, to me, there are other changes that need to happen that are not happening, and that's why these kids are flustered. They got to bring the trade school back in 11th and 12th grade, right? They've got to make sure these kids are eating healthy. They've got to stop. They've got to get rid of state exams. It's destroying them, because this is really part of the bullying crisis, when kids are not directed the things that they're natural at, things that they love to do within the school curriculum, they feel like failures. They feel like there's no future. So we have to guide them with what they're actually good at, and the system has to be developed in that light. And I know you're a teacher. I believe that you would respect what I'm saying.
No, that's powerful. And speaking of that, I want to know, how do you recognize schools and how do you recognize youth groups demonstrating what you've taught them, like with that outstanding anti-bullying efforts? Like, how do you recognize them? Because you just talked about earlier that 28,000 kids went through your program, and you do the 33rd day celebration. How what are some ways that you got set in place that you are like recognizing those kiddos and the people that's connected to Harmony by Karate?
They're not connected to Harmony by Karate. Harmony Power is completely separate in the schools. Basically, if you go to New York City Public School site, like the head of it for all schools, in that site is a whole list of what they can do for Harmony Power, like what kids can do in the schools. They can even use that site anywhere in the world. It's open to the public. So any school across the country can go into New York City Public School site, see my name, look at that initiative, know I'm a resource, and actually take from it and do it themselves. They don't need me. If they had me there, it would be an asset. It would help to move things along better and differently, but they don't need me. They need to follow what's there. It's a blueprint for the world to follow. Same as my child policy program that in my political campaign. Any politician can use that. Any leader can use that. If policy was developed that showed the whole world would be at peace. But what people do, politicians go out there and compete, and they throw children there at the last minute. We're going to do this for kids. It's like a afterthought. But if the policy, the root of it was all child-based, if we put the child first, we're putting ourselves first. That's what I learned in that quest with the hope that I was going to run for governor. But what we did was an exploratory campaign with a beautiful website, johnfornj.com, and it kicked butt. People were like, it was out of the park. You have to see the site. It was beautifully done by the best of the best. So, these are the things that, the answers are there. That's there for politics. The other answer is there for the schools on New York City public school site. People could take it and run. They don't need me. They have me if they want me, but they don't need me.
But you left a legacy behind. Wow, that's earth shattering. Let me ask you one last question, because I know we've run out of time. Now, you just mentioned the governor. So, did you run for the governor of New York, or did you support?
It's an exploratory campaign. Is a quest to run. In other words,
okay.
Right. In other words, you have the team, you do everything possible. So it's right before you go on the ballot, and then you decide, okay, Mike, we're going to follow through. We're going to go for it. Do you have a fortune of money to back it? Do you have a lieutenant governor? If you don't have certain things, you can't move forward. So what happened was, whatever I did was creating enough noise that I was indirectly told to stop with certain things. And I had to step away. But they love me because, when you make that kind of noise, that you're doing something good, and they respect what we've done. So I humbly stepped aside and left it alone.
Listen, this was impactful. This was another. Well, what were the takeaways for the night? Because we are out of time. What are the takeaways? There's not one thing to put. I can't put my finger on any one particular thing, but I would say that in a nutshell, I've given two platforms for the world to take. JohnForNJ.com, they want to lead with children first in any of their political endeavors. That's an example right there. They want to change the world in the schools and in their cities through the schools. Go to HarmonyPowerNow.org. Solutions right there. Boom. An exact blueprint. How to change the world in 33 days. And all the ways to do it. No more excuses anymore. No more, we don't have the money. It's a big lie. You don't need money. You need time and love. Impact of Educational Leadership Podcast. Facebook.